A very good afternoon to you, Prof. Thank you so much for joining us. Your views on how this summit will actually pan out.
Thank you very much, Alicia, and good afternoon to the viewers. This is indeed a historic moment for international peace and international politics. A lot is expected to happen, but the two principles that are meeting here are very unpredictable and very unorthodox politicians. So, while we expect a lot, at the end of the day, nothing might as well happen, Alicia.
You know, Prof, I've just spoken to a Russian correspondent about Putin's stance on the matter, where he actually released a statement saying that he does support the summit, but he still wants in on any nuclear deals in the Korean Peninsula. What do you make of this juxtaposition?
I did not get your question very well. I think my line was cracking, but I got the gist of it. The complete verifiable and irreversible denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula is something that does not only worry China but also Russia. The issue that we are talking about here is an issue of sequencing. What comes first? Is it the easing of sanctions, which Vladimir Putin and Sergei Lavrov very much prefer, or it is first the complete denuclearization, which is verifiable and irreversible? For Russia, a denuclearized Korean Peninsula is not something that plays well into its foreign policy, because this will increase Russia's isolation, and if that happens, Russia will be left with very few true allies in the form of Syria and to some limited extent Turkey under President Erdogan.
And Prof, do you think Russia then would be under any threat, economic or bilateral, if they were to also join this course? As you've just mentioned, they tend to lose quite a lot.
Russia stands a lot. Indeed, if there is complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. The other scenario which might play out here is that we are still aware of what happened in 2003-2004 in Libya, where Colonel Muammar Gaddafi gave up all his nuclear infrastructure only to be killed the way that he was killed, and only for Libya to descend into what it is today, which is a complete failed state. So still there are possibilities that North Korea might give up all its nuclear infrastructure and still face the fate which faced Libya. That is a development which both Russia and China do not want to happen, especially China. It does not want to have a failed state at its doorstep. This is why both China and Russia, in my view, will join these talks sooner rather than later.
All right, but Prof, let's discuss why the need for the shutdown of these nuclear facilities. I think people might not always have enough info to make a profound decision on this matter, as it is such a complex subject. Do these plants pose any real danger should they continue to exist? And I was just also talking to our correspondent there, who says that it might even take about 15 years for complete denuclearization, because of course of all the plants and the buildings that have to be taken care of. So it's quite a tedious and strenuous process.
Alicia, I am not a nuclear physicist, but what I can tell you as a professor of political science is that the process of complete denuclearization is not one which can happen overnight. Indeed, I agree with your earlier respondent. This is a process that takes at least a decade, because we are not talking about just getting rid of the active nuclear ingredients, but even the infrastructure, even the places where the testing and the centrifuging was happening. So complete denuclearization is a process, in my view, that takes not less than 10 years. Then we bring in the threat which is posed by electoral politics to this denuclearization process, because sooner rather than later, President Donald Trump will attend elections in the United States of America, there will indeed be a new administration in the United States of America, and it will be seen whether the new government will continue to support the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, or we will be back to the drawing board again. So this is very complex. What will happen on Tuesday is just the thawing of the ice. This process will be drawn out, this process will be protracted, and it will take many, many years before it is over, Alicia.
All right, and Prof, just as a parting note, to remember in South Africa there was huge upheaval when the issue of nuclear, the topic of nuclear came up. In terms of our country and nuclear, what stance do you think we should be taking as a nation?
As South Africa, we are very clear about our position on the issue of nuclear weapons. In 1996, South Africa was a huge player to what became known as the Treaty of Pelindaba, where we sought, among others, to create a nuclear-free zone Africa. The majority of African states ratified the Treaty of Pelindaba in 1996, and as South Africa, we are not only committed to a denuclearized Africa, but to a denuclearized globe. We believe that nuclear weapons are not good for humanity. We believe that where it exists, nuclear must be used for peaceful energy, such as the generation of electricity and also for certain medical purposes, but not as a weapon of war.
That's where we leave it, Professor. Thank you so much for that sound update. That is Professor Everisto Benyera of UNISA talking us through the U.S. Korea denuclearization project.